Hello, this is Dr. Daniel Van Ingen with this week's Parenting Podcast. Super excited to have you join me here today. Available on iTunes, available on Audible, available on my website, and super excited to say, hey, this week's Parenting Podcast is titled, What Will I Leave Behind on This Plane? What will you leave behind on this plane? Tonight is my first group. I'm in my clinic, in my practice. I'm the first one that I know of that has developed this group service, and it's called Skydiving Therapy and Resilience Group. And I've got 5 guys who are joining me, who we are going to have 2 group sessions. 1 week tonight, and then in 2 weeks. And then for session 3, that's right, you hear it correctly, on February 28th, we're going to go skydiving. And then a couple weeks after that, we're going to have a celebration dinner. So if you want a defining moment in your life, contact me and get ready for change, because we can all stay static. You know, many of us are static. You either stay, you either repeat, or you evolve. You are either staying put, you are static, or you are changing. And it's all about change. It's all about change. And the key question I'm asking, and this is good for parents, this is good for everybody, and you don't have to go skydiving to answer this question, but you can incorporate it in your own life. What will I leave behind on this plane? What will I leave behind? So last night I took a few minutes to look at Facebook, and I was reminded of a Facebook memory. It was the 6th year anniversary of being a victim of assault and battery by a psychotic patient. And it was interesting what I posted, because in some ways I think it was an attention grabber. Look, I probably have a weakness in that area, like many others. I think I just shared an experience, but I did not fully express the impact that attack had on my life. And it was just one of many. A few years before that, I had a patient of mine commit suicide. And if you work in mental health services, and if you've dealt with a patient who committed suicide, it's something that marks you. It's something that stays with you for a long time. And so in December, I answered that question, what will I leave behind on this plane? And for me, it was psychological burnout. Look, my biggest failure in life is a failure to recognize my psychological burnout. From the patient who committed suicide to the time I was a victim of assault and battery, to other experiences that included hearing story after story of trauma. And I go into detail on this in my new book, A 40-Day Devotional for Parents. In my introduction, I talk about the extensive impact it had in a real negative way. And look, I believed I was psychological Superman. To my own fault. And in my own flaws, call it my ego, my pride, to my own fault, I believed I was psychological Superman. I believed I had the mental strength. I believed that I had the inner strength. I believe I had the faith that could move mountains. And I knew the incarnational ideology to support what I believed about what I could do. I was so wrong. I was not psychological Superman. I didn't have the strength to do it on my own. and I went on to fail in numerous ways. And many of those deeply personal failures, including letting myself go physically, not dealing with my feelings, and my gradual burnout, and not attending to my personal issues of compartmentalization and deep emotional burnout. I didn't exercise for years. I ate ice cream every night for years. In fact, I estimate that I had ice cream or pie 9,125 consecutive days, 25 years of nightly ice cream. Now, do I hold the world record? Probably not. I might have missed a night here and there, but generally over 99% of these nights. This was a huge problem. I completely let myself go. I became isolated. And I did the very opposite of the mission of Skydiving Therapy and Resilience Group. I became isolated. I didn't pursue change. I was stuck. And again, I want to invite you. This is not about selling books. Contact me if you can't afford one, and I'll mail you a copy. I go into detail about compassion fatigue. And I'm going to talk a lot more about overcoming psychological burnout in all walks of life. But this is especially prevalent, whether you're a mental health practitioner. It's not just EMTs and physicians and ER doctors. It's mental health practitioners, social workers, and psychologists. But more than anyone, it's parents. And we're all susceptible to burnout. So please check that out. I go into detail about our susceptibility and our need to take care of ourselves and our need to recognize that we're not psychological Superman. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn from the lessons of my failures. I'm bringing 5 guys with me to skydive. I mean, anyone that knows me is going to find this unbelievable. But I'm actually facing my fears, and this is unreal. But it's about change. So I am evidence that people change. Now in my counseling and therapy work, one of the principles that drive me is that people change. I go into detail on my change. This includes not missing a workout for 18 months, a dedicated discipline of getting up at 4:30 in the morning every day. I have not had ice cream in 18 months. And you talk about facing fears. Now I'm bringing a group of guys to go. We're gonna focus on some things today that are gonna really make a difference. But it's about change. The bottom line is, let's face our fears head on. A decision by another doesn't define you. Your past doesn't define you. What you do now defines you. And the key question I have, and over the years I experienced a lot of pain. And in many ways we use control to avoid pain. The TV, the ice cream, ways, any tendencies I had in controlling others or in my day. Now, we use control to avoid pain. We need to heal, not control. This brings me back to the question, what will you leave behind as you jump off the plane? How are you becoming a change agent? I invite all parents to visualize. What will you leave behind as you jump off the plane? What are you doing now to change? Because look, we either repeat or evolve. And all the patients and all the clients that I talk to, and I talk to about 80 a day, and I talk to dozens of parents every week. And, they're trying to figure out, what do I do with this teenager that's having a temper tantrum? What do I do with this non-compliance? What do I do with this behavior problem? What do I do with back talk? What do I do with oppositional behavior? With defiance, how do you deal with ADHD and defiance? How do you get your kid to do this homework? And there's lots of tough problems to solve. And I'll gladly sort of walk you through some of those problems. And check out my history of parenting podcasts, and check out my book, You Are Your Child's Best Psychologist. And there's lots of resources out there. And you can listen to this podcast again on iTunes or Audible. There's a number of resources out there, but ultimately, it's about us changing. It took me a long time to realize it's not about the skills and techniques. It's about us changing. What will you change in you? This is Dr. Daniel Van Ingen with this week's Parenting Podcast with my all-powerful question. What will you leave behind as you jump off the plane?